Okay, this meeting is now called to order. It is October 20th, 2021, and the time is 6:36 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Les, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Les. And then can you please call roll?
Scott Andreasen.
Here.
Al Dahlgren.
Here.
Zach Dorhold.
Here.
Les Green is here. Shannon Hawes.
Here.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Here.
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Here.
Additionally, the following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office: Superintendent Willie Jett, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, Dr. Mike Rivard, Executive Director of Operations, Gary Ganji, Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott. Custodian on site is Steve Hain. The following cabinet members are virtually present: Director of Community Engagement and Communication, Tammy DeLand, Executive Director of Community Education, Adam Holm, Executive Director of Learning and Teaching, Lori Posch, Executive Director of Research, Assessment and Enrollment, Donna Roper, Executive Director of Student Services and Special Education, Carol Potter, and the Executive Assistant, Jan McGuire.
Thank you. Next, I'm looking for approval of tonight's agenda.
I move approval.
And do I have a second? I have a motion by Scott and a second by Zach. Call roll.
Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Les Green is yes. Zach Dorhold.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
Thank you, Les. Next up is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of minutes of September 1st, 2021 and September 22 of 2021. Item B, approval of bills and other financial transactions in the grand total amount of $3,287,697.87. Item C, approval of personnel staff changes. Item D, acceptance of grant awards and donations. Item E, quarterly expenditures for board members. Item F, controlled entrances project change order totaling $2,811.89. And item G is a big one, resolutions relating to the lease purchase financing and refunding certificates of participation, Series 2021A, authorizing the issuance, determining the form and details, ratifying the award of the sale, and authorizing the execution, delivery, and registration. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, then I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as read.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Natalie, a second by Scott. Les, can you please call roll?
Les Green is yes. Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Yes.
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Zach Dorhold.
Thank you, Les. Okay, next we're moving on to informational items. We have one item on this, school presentation, Kennedy Community School presentation, presented tonight by Principal Anna Wilhite. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Haas, school board members, and Superintendent Jett for having me here tonight. I am excited to share with you how we are Kennedy together, and today I'm going to be sharing with you our story. Together, we focus on our school improvement plan, using our reading and math MCA data as our overarching goals. We use 3 smaller SIP goals to meet these needs. The first one this year we're focusing on is STEAM. It's a small print, so I will read. All students will engage in multidisciplinary opportunities that extend and reinforce science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Our second goal is focus on social emotional learning. All students will develop, enhance, and grow social emotional skills through our work in restorative practices, conscious discipline, and PBIS. And our third goal is literacy. All students will continue to build, develop, and grow their literacy skills through direct instruction, interventions, and exposure to positive reading opportunities. We are meeting these 3 goals, or striving to meet these 3 goals this school year, using an aligned approach. And everything that we do throughout our school building is aligned to these 3 sub-goals this year. We're doing that through our professional learning team, our MTSS team, and our school committees. So first, I'll start with STEAM. This school year, our one school is Blessed Family Engagement Nights. So our first family engagement night, October 6th, an absolutely beautiful, and we had over 3 families and participate in a variety of ways. Identifying animal, giant bubble creation, as you see in the major hit. Also, we're designing apple launchers, which is our bottom right. And we created and then completed a hunt through our prairie. I wanted to highlight the that we have and the environment that we have for our students. And our be really focused will be December. So the S in STEAM stands for science. This picture here is actually a video of my friend Breslow. And that's him testing out his anemometer. I had to have the teacher help me say that a couple times. So we really try to enrich our students in a variety of science activities. These are just a couple from the beginning of this school year. So we have our middle school students working on different ways of measuring and using a microscope for analyzing. Our 5th graders are analyzing different rocks. And then the bottom right-hand picture, we found a lovely little snapping turtle. So we decided to bring him in for the day, actually for a very short period of time, and write some stories and learn about his habitat and environment. And then we sent him right back where we found him. Again. All right, the next part is the T, technology. This year we're teaching our students how to code using a variety of experiences, both hands-on and using manipulatives. So you'll see in the upper right-hand corner and the bottom left-hand corner 2 different pictures of that. On the bottom right-hand corner, you will see a picture of our middle school students communicating virtually with NASA scientists. It was a great opportunity for them to ask a variety of questions that they had for the scientists there. And then the bottom middle picture is a picture of some of our flipped classrooms that we've been able to do due to the learning that took place over the COVID-19 pandemic that we experienced last year, and being able to provide a variety of learning experiences for our students that meet their individual needs. Engineering is the E of STEAM. We have a very large robotics focus in our building. Our 7th graders all take a robotics class, and then we also provide a robotics team. And then the upper left-hand pictures are pictures of our 5th grade students designing different weight-bearing structures. And if you can tell, they're using different pieces of paper and cardboard. So It was quite the challenge, but a good thinking opportunity for our students. And our robotics team is going to continue to flourish. We just received a grant from Northrop Grumman and Robotics Education Foundation to build a robotics field in our building. So we are excited to embark on that next. And then the arts, the wonderful A of STEAM. We provide a variety of opportunities for our students in the arts as well. The right-hand two pictures, you will see students sewing. In our Life Smarts class this spring, we took the opportunity of having a longer period of time with our students, and our Life Smarts teacher taught the students how to sew. So they ended up sewing their own puff quilts, and I've never seen a group of middle school children as engaged as they were trying to learn how to sew puff quilts. It was absolutely amazing to watch. They were all just, you could tell, super happy and motivated to complete the work. Bottom left-hand picture was our final 8th grade concert, orchestra concert for our Kennedy students, so a pretty big moment. It was great that they were still able to participate in that. Upper left-hand picture is a wonderful kindergarten student completing a bubblegum artwork project using a variety of resources. And then in the middle, our primary students working on rhythm and drumming. And then math is the M of the STEAM. We are focusing on the CRA, the concrete, representational, and abstract focus this year, on how we're using our manipulatives to help meet our students and give them a variety of experiences. The right-hand picture is students practicing telling time with each other. Bottom right hand is playing some base 10 block games with kindergarten. Middle is measuring, working on measuring actual spaces. And the bottom left is base 10 blocks again. And then capitalizing on the beautiful weather that we've had so far this year, our second graders went outside and we're doing make 10 buddies with chalk out on the concrete. Reading is part of our literacy goal. With our additional title services this school year, reading intervention opportunities for our students in 3rd through 8th grade. In the past, we primarily had resources to provide those services for our primary students through ADSES and with the support of Reading Corps. And now with the additional reading intervention opportunities, we're able to service our 3rd through 8th grade students as well. So this is just a variety of pictures of our students embarking on various forms of reading throughout our building. Bottom left hand is using one of our outdoor environmental learning stations. Students utilize those spaces for a variety of learning throughout the year. Here, a teacher took their students out for self-selected reading time. The upper left-hand picture is actually a picture from last spring. During the pandemic, we were limited on much with each other, but our 2nd and 5th grade teachers still wanted to participate in book buddies, so they were able to make it happen virtually, which was really neat to see. And then this school year, many of those kids were able to connect and see each other in person, which was fun as well. Middle picture, upper middle picture is some students relearning about our wonderful library and picking their own books. Last year, we actually had a really cool book bus, and we brought all the books to the students. Low and had lights on the front. It was kind of fun. And then the upper right-hand picture, we actually that picture the other day. Some kids had just gotten new library books on the bus and were eager to read to each other. So I thought that was just a really sweet moment. Important reading, these are all pictures of our Sunday intervention that we use in our classrooms. Sunday is a targeted intervention. It offers structured, systematic, and multisensory reading interventions for our readers. So you'll see that in the variety of these pictures here. These are all students participating in different pieces of the Sunday intervention. So I thought it's kind of interesting to see what these students are doing kind of in real time. And then writing is that other important piece of literacy. We have students learning how not only to take note in social studies, but the bottom left-hand exploring how to become an author after having a wonderful virtual author visit last spring. And then the other pictures are our students using a variety of spaces throughout our building, learning about practicing different strategies, including writing, descriptive writing, expository, and narrative writing. Our SEL goal is positive behaviors. We really focus on not only having warm, welcoming, kind spaces, but also living and breathing that in everything that we do at school. So these are just different pictures of our students spreading kindness throughout the building. the two right-hand pictures are of that. The bottom middle picture is our web crew. We level, it stands for Where Everyone Belongs. And these are our students packing our school backpack program, which helps us provide food for students that need it over the weekends. So our middle level students help pack that. And then bottom left-hand picture is part of our PBIS Colt Cash incentive. So students are able to have a little reward when they have their name picked out for showing the Colt way of being kind, safe, and responsible. And then the upper left-hand picture is the NED show. With our Digital Learning Day on October 1st, we took advantage of that opportunity and we were able to have the NED show have a virtual assembly with our students in the afternoon. So our students were able to be engaged with connections with staff throughout the day. This bottom picture is actually a picture of our Kids Stop. We knew that it would be hard for our kids at Kids Stop to engage in that, so we set up a space in our activity room for them to participate in that. And the NED show stands for Never Give Up, Encourage Others, and Do Your Best. Like I stated before, we really try to focus on having welcoming spaces. The left-hand picture is a picture of myself and Mr. Smith, our assistant principal, who you'll see throughout our building, and this was at our goal-setting conference, Welcoming Families. The upper right-hand picture was also from our goal-setting conference. We really tried to be mindful and thinking of the best way to support our community this year and how we could help guide families through the various forms and back-to-school process that they needed to complete. So we set up a variety of stations throughout the building so we could sit down with our families and help them complete that important paperwork, whether it was iPad insurance form or it was any other forms that they needed to complete. We had tables set up to do that for them as well. And then the bottom left-hand picture is actually a picture of me on a smartboard. We found out this school year and through this pandemic that has taught us a lot, that our students really enjoyed having the visual of us as we read announcements. So they could not only hear us, they could see us. And our teachers gave us the feedback that they loved that because they could show the announcements when it worked for their class and they had the most engagement. So we've continued with that. Mr. Smith and myself, we take turns doing the announcements, and it's a fun little way for the kids to see us a little bit more as well. And the bottom right-hand picture is one of our lovely classrooms that I wanted to highlight because you don't all get to come in and see them all the time. And we love to move our bodies, as we know. So these in a variety of ways in our building. The picture is actually kindergartners doing yoga. And there are no children. They are doing a yoga pose. Them clearly. Left two-hand picture, sensory smart room that we still use that with one. Just our social distance. It gives our students a stimulating experience and have they're ready for learning. The left hand spring of cross country skiing because we think yet. The middle gardeners playground as gardeners love. Right hand picture is one of my favorite friends helping you thing to learn how to do for the first. And then we are one community. Partnerships in our building. One of them is with St. Ben's. We have that we partner with math and reading. The other great piece of we still have a really great connection this school year for our we had former Kennedy students of them come out and help support our walkathon. Wonderful. I think it's great for our kids as it was the Apollo. Not want to leave at the end of the day. They had so much fun helping to activities there. Other than last year with local businesses, and we support our community. We have had a nice increase in our participation. These are some pictures of our. We have our volleyball team who actually just last night with the 7-3 prep, so that was pretty fun. Has been working junior high and team and our robotic running. We are hoping our knowledge bowl solvers and then our other winter activities as we move in December. And learning life skills. 21% of our students Education Services, our COLT cap mentioned in the past. These students in those life skill learning opportunities. We have provided those opportunities for our students. It might not look this, they're still learning how to build a business skills for their future success. They're able to go to the fire department, to us, kindergartners and first graders, about fire safety firsthand, fire department. Also environmentalists. These are pictures from last spring on our Earth Day. Our fifth graders really focused on cleaning our environmental outdoor spaces, but then they also went over to Country Manor, which is right next door to us, and they helped clean their grounds as well, which was a great service learning experience for them. And then our kindergartners were learning about Earth Day in this bottom right-hand picture, and then our middle level students are focusing on learning about Earth and the environmental impacts on Earth Day. And our last slide is we have fun together. Part of school is not only learning in those social developmental pieces, but it's also about having some fun together. So at the end of last school year, we had a large carnival for our K-5 and an activity day for our 6th through 8th grade students. You'll see these pictures on the right-hand side, some of our kids having fun with their hats and being goofy, as we know everybody likes to be, including adults. And then the bottom right-hand corner is one of our teachers and students participating in a potato sack race. The middle picture is actually me being pied by a middle schooler, which was thoroughly enjoyable. And the bottom left hand, there was a beautiful day to learn about, have some fun with sledding. So they went out and were sledding as their recess break. And then the upper left hand picture is a picture from having an outdoor picnic this fall. It was so nice, we decided to eat outside. And I want to thank you all for supporting 742 in our Kennedy Community School. And now I would like to share our video of how we are Kennedy together.
I became a mother before I became a teacher, and I went to school right out of high school to be a teacher, but then was home for quite some time and volunteered a lot in the schools. And I've always felt really passionate about building kids up, and I wanted to be able to walk away every year knowing that somebody believes something good about themselves because of me. That's just been my passion, and I went back as an old lady and got my degree, and I've been teaching ever since. Well, I always start with what goal I want them to learn, and then I think what would excite them the most and how they would want to seek out the learning by their what they're doing. Most of the time that means they're probably moving and a little bit loud, which I have to sometimes get used to. They are excited and they feel like they are in control of their learning and that they're seeking it out because they want to know. And we know how lucky we are with our and we just, the advantage that we can, it's just a wonderful thing. They're much more likely to have taught in second. Team is absolutely amazing. We say, how can we get the kids excited? How can we get them moving? Do they have to be at their desks? What can we do? And then we just collaborate and collect things together, and it sounds wacky in the beginning and it turns into a beautiful lesson in the end. Well, we always at Kennedy think of ourselves as a family, and the community around us we try to collaborate. And we work with the college of, we have their students in very often. They bring activities or robotics to really make sure that Kennedy feels that they are part of our family. He had said, if I could do anything for you, what could it be? And then he came back the next day and offered to write us a grant with the Central Minnesota Arts Board. Artists come in and she will be teaching how to paint self-portraits. Ties in diversity and accepting and of our unique qualities. Is thinking about themselves as artists, because as we know, if you add art, students are always much more engaged and excited. So I'm just so.
So I actually came late of education. I started college at St. Ben's, and I really loved doing outdoor field work. My background is really in field biology, and then I started doing outdoor education at different nature centers. I worked at St. John's Arboretum for a long time. But I really miss not being able to with kids. my teaching license, I love bringing those experiences back here into my classroom. Seeing kids on field trips at St. John's when I worked there get so excited, so engaged with the natural world is super. Should be hands. So many opportunities for students to be able to ask questions about things that they're actually doing rather than just reading about something, being able to know why is this happening or what's going on. So if they're still asking questions when we're done with an activity, then I know that they're engaged with it. In my class, we use science notebooks. Students are writing and reflecting, recording their own observations. We do a lot of drawing, and it is engaging, and students seem to have a positive experience with it as well. Now, some of the things that are important in practicing science are collaborating with peers, getting something peer-reviewed. So I try to model. So what makes is having experiences that they can connect with. So oftentimes our students will be asked in the room to share their own how they connect to things we're doing in the room. For example, we might not travel to, Kleinfelter Park or Millstream Park just because of the limitations of the school day, but if we can think about those places and make connections to those places, then students can see that something that we're doing right here isn't just about us right here, right now. It's about here as in St. Joseph. So having students find something that's relevant to them, that's not just a shared experience that we've all done together at Kennedy, but connecting that to other people in other parts of their life is something that we do.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Anybody have any questions or comments? Monica?
No, so they didn't get wet, but if you stepped off the brick that was on there, you were wet. But you were clean, but you were wet because it was soap, yes. But it was a really great activity. The kids were asking us if we could do that during the school day. We said, maybe our next activity day. So did not get wet.
Scott?
Okay. You mentioned at the very beginning something about Title I. What does Title I involve?
Title I provides additional services for our building or for buildings that qualify. So it's usually based on your free and reduced lunch status. So we are now consistently at 43% of our students receiving free or reduced lunch. So you receive additional funds in order to support those students.
Okay. You mentioned Sunday intervention. What is Sunday
A
intervention?
Sunday intervention?
Yes.
So I'll too fast. Intervention, it is a structured, systematic, multisensory intervention system that we use with our students. So it helps to identify the gaps in the students' learning, or rather in their reading, and then we meet them where they're at. So whether if they need additional support in phonemic awareness or phonics, and it's a small group intervention. So no more than usually 3, maybe 5 students would receive that intervention at one time.
There's something about backpack food for the weekends. What's that all about?
So we provide the opportunity for students or families that are in need. If they share with us that they don't have the resources to have food over the weekends, we partner with our local organizations, and we put together a backpack full of, it's a bag full of food that we anonymously put into their lockers. So although the students may pack the food, they don't actually put it into the student's backpack. The staff, only actually the one staff member that knows the student receives it, puts it into their locker for them so they have food over a weekend.
Okay, we recently talked about the homeless in one of our committees. Is that related to this?
Some students that are considered homeless receive these services, but we don't provide it based on your free and reduced lunch status or if you are considered homeless. We provide it based on the need the family shares with us.
Okay. You mentioned goal-setting conferences. I know that in Finance Committee, we've been trying to get that form filled out for benefits for free and reduced lunch, which we no longer have. Is this something that you cover in your area?
Yep. So we helped our families fill out that educational benefits form, and we would either sit down with them, and then we are continuing to invite families in if they need any additional support or translation in order to fill those forms out.
Okay, because they're essential for us to get our money
Absolutely.
from.
Which is actually how we receive title services as well. We use the information from that form to help see what schools qualify for those services.
Okay. Community, you mentioned a senior residential thing, Country Manor. What is the relationship there?
We used to do a lot more before COVID began. We would go over and do projects with the people that lived in that community. Now we are just pretty much letter writing and having some connections with that staff and then helping to do any kind of service learning activities we can do, but right now we're pretty limited due to COVID.
Stearns Electric has a program where they put on an electricity demonstration. I think it's for about fourth graders. Have you had any contact with them?
We used to do we used to do that in the past. Again, we haven't had anybody in the last 2 years to do those demonstrations.
Might want to check with them. I'm on one of their committees over there.
Okay,
Pushing
you.
it again, I think.
okay. Thank you.
I think that's about it.
Okay.
Al?
I'm going to ask you about it. Kennedy has always been a very full school and growing. And it seems like in the last couple of years, the enrollment has dipped some. I'm wondering what's the cause of that, and are we tracking where are these students going? Is there just less available, or are there not as many enrolling in? Or are we losing students to other schools? And are we tracking those and finding out why?
Yeah, so we track every student that comes in and goes. It's a variety of all of what you just said kind of put together. In the last 2 years, our families have made decisions that work best for them. So some of our families did choose to homeschool. Some of our families decided to do online learning. And after we decided that we weren't doing that as a district, that was something that they chose to do as well. And then some of our families have chose to go to area schools around the St. Joseph community.
Okay, I understand that. I guess I knew that. But they're going and are we getting with those families and asking them why they're choosing to go to those other schools?
Yes, so we ask each family to fill out a survey. If any family that leaves our school, unless they're moving to Colorado, or we clearly know that there's a move, then we ask them to fill out a survey. We have inconsistent participation because we can't make someone fill it out. I also personally try to reach out if I can to the families to find out, but they usually just tell us it's due to family choices or family reasons. We don't usually get a clear answer as to the why that they are leaving.
Do we know or have any clue as to why the free and increasing substantially at Kennedy?
If you look at our data, which I believe is in this slide deck, it shows a steady increase in our free and reduced numbers. And it's just been a steady incline. We've actually been around the 40% for the last couple years. And it's just, it's a variety of reasons, but we have more people accessing services that they haven't accessed before, and more people are in need of services that they hadn't been in need of before.
The other thing that we wanted to add that Mike and I have talked about is when we made the change to our in-district enrollment policy, so that we weren't, we tightened up having students transfer or drive themselves from the east side or the south side. That actually had a fairly significant impact on Kennedy as well. And not necessarily hitting the middle level yet, where some of the enrollment changes that Anna is describing maybe has shown a more significant impact there, but at the lower grades, that certainly has impacted their enrollment.
Yeah, and it seems like our enrollment at Kennedy was down substantially more. And generally speaking, I wouldn't think it would be drastically different unless there was some root cause, and I don't know what it would be. I honestly don't know what it would be, and I'm hoping that we're looking to see if we can get at that, because we want that to be, as with all of our schools, we want them to be growing, vibrant schools. We don't want them to be declining enrollment.
So can I add just a couple thoughts and observations? In some of this, the board already knows. And so the two schools in particular that we see enrollment shifting, Kennedy, Clearview. And those are two of our schools that are in the outskirts of our district. So speaking specifically to Kennedy, in my conversations with families, and being observant in terms of what happens, and this is something as superintendent need to have these conversations with our neighbors, but Kennedy in particular, there are bus routes from neighboring districts that actually come into that attendance area. So when I look at enrollment at Kennedy, all the answers that Anna mentioned or discussed, plus the fact that that area of our district is in the outskirts, so then our neighboring districts are really being aggressive with that. That is something as a district we're trying to figure out how to combat that or address that, because that is something that's significant, and you can see it in the enrollment numbers.
Are they being more aggressive at the elementary level now? Is that what you're saying? Because we used to lose a lot of students in the move from Kennedy to Apollo. So like ninth grade, they would decide to go to Ricori. Are we seeing Ricori and Holdingford and those districts put forth an aggressive recruiting campaign in the elementary level?
And so my mask is on, so you can't see me smiling to the answer of that. Correct, okay? And so I was not necessarily going to call out the exact districts that is. Okay, thank you. And so with that, before it was always the transition moments. So it was, like you just said, describing going into middle school or going into the high school. With the things that have happened throughout the state and in terms of people making decisions, it is a more aggressive, potentially, it's happening at the elementary level, because then they're trying to entice. I can get you in kindergarten, I can have you as a first, second, third grader, and now you could be potentially part of our district. And I'm just hypothetically speaking. That way they're part of their district for a longer moment instead of just the transition moments. And so now you actually hear conversation. I'm not going to say I've read. I'm not going to say I've been on Facebook. I'm not going to say I've been in any group moments to hear what the other districts are doing. But what you're asking me, the answer is yes, it's happening.
So then my question would be, do we have a counter program in place in which we are also going aggressively after those families to try to keep them? Because if we lose to other districts like that, that harms our schools in our district. And from a funding and just from being a vibrant, we want our schools to be the place to go. And if we're losing students because they're coming in and aggressively recruiting, are we aggressively recruiting our own students within our district? Are we countering their aggressive campaign?
And to answer that question, and hopefully I'm not on mute, to answer that question, we are having conversation about what that strategy is going to look like. So have we been doing it? You hear Anna talk about, I'm reaching out to the family. So she's having questions. She's asking what the rationale is. The strategy is for us as a district, marketing-wise, explanation-wise of the strengths of our district, and now targeting I'm not going to say the outskirts of our district, but celebrating and talking about our district to where you're seeing a decline. Yes, that is part of our conversation. But we have not implemented all of it yet. Hopefully that was clearer than mud.
Les?
Thank you. One of the things that I think some years ago, there were at least people were talking about our systems as if they were businesses. And that using a business model and essentially saying that our enrollment had to do with customers and that we had to advertise and get more customers or aggressively recruit. I think that we might think about what it is that these families want that we are not providing, number one, and what do we have that they don't want? Because I think if we look in terms of what their needs are and what their wants and likes are, that regardless of the aggressive recruiting that somebody might do, if they can't provide what we can provide, or if they can't give them, or if we're getting something from us they don't want, then we have to recognize that. And this concept of competing with other districts, or I'm sorry, the concept of competing with other districts who might be able to educate somebody's child better than we can is something I think we need to be real careful about not doing. That we make certain that each child is getting the education they need and that meets the needs of their parents and those kinds of things, at least in terms of the best of our ability to do that, and not, I don't care for the business model concept, but, and I'm not sure I'm making any sense at all at this point, but I just think we might want to look at that differently. Thank you.
And so, Dr. Green, as most people at this table know, I'm kind of competitive. And so with that being said, the winning aspect of it. And so there's so many different things to celebrate about our district. There's so many different things to tout about our district. And so I'm combining both of the things that both of you just said. A, it's analyzing what is it and why. But then B, it's customizing it so that somebody understands if you decide to leave, you're missing out. And this is the place to be. And so that's in a past life, in terms of a couple past lives, in terms of recruiting, it's taking what your strengths are and explaining it to the potential recruit, or in this case, our students and their families, why 742 is the best thing for their child. And we just need to make sure that we work diligently and do our due diligence for a place, and we're talking tonight strictly about Kennedy.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly, that we have a lot, I think that we have a lot of things that those other districts do not have. And I think the biggest thing that we have to overcome in those outlying districts is fear.
Kennedy students usually go to Apollo rather than to Tech, which is the new school. Does that have an impact, do you think?
I don't think so. Our kids that go to Apollo and the partnership that I'm developing with Principal Fisher and the other admin over there, they love it. We've actually made quite the effort this year to provide Apollo gear, even just for a start. So our PBIS incentive for the middle schoolers, because we know little trinkets for middle schoolers really aren't that awesome, other than poppets. We now have, I worked with Alex Badger, the new activities director at Apollo, and she gave me a whole bunch of Apollo gear. So we've been handing that out to our kids and talking that language and living that language. And our kids that we've been talking to are really excited, and we're trying to encourage that excitement and see all the amazing opportunities. So I've already developed that partnership with Alex and Principal Fisher, and we're going to see how we can continue to build that there.
Thank you very much. I was impressed by all the active learning, hands-on movement. People aren't just sitting behind being lectured. So thank you very much. That was exciting pictures.
Yeah. Thank you all for having me.
Okay, next up, Moving on to discussion and action items. This is an action item, one item here up. MSBA resolution presented tonight by Board Member Al Dahlgren.
So a couple months ago, I was approached by the Minnesota School Boards Association to participate in a Zoom meeting, and I had no idea why. I had no idea why I was selected. I had really no idea what it was about. They just said that you should be there and be prepared to answer. They gave us 6 questions about our district, and we should be prepared to answer those questions. So I participated in that, and it was me and about 8 other districts, and the Minnesota School Boards Association. It was local districts, from Mora to Elk River and Monticello, and then Ricori was part of it. And again, I still don't know why. I think maybe they still have me listed as the chair of the board, and it was supposed to be Shannon or something. I don't know, but I did it. And then when it was all done, they wanted us to fill out a survey at the end, which I did. And then they begged with us to write a resolution for what our district may need, or what the largest needs in our district are, and submit it to them, and that they would gather these resolutions, and then that would help them create their legislative platform for the upcoming school year. So on the board, or on the screen up here, you can see the resolution that I submitted. It was on behalf of me. It was not on behalf of the board. And they have a checkbox there. It says this is submitted with the support of the school board, or this is submitted by an individual school board member. And I checked the individual, and I said, in my opinion, the resolution would be easy to pass with full board support if it were presented to the board. So the resolution statement is, be it resolved that MSBA urges the legislature to eliminate and fully fund the state portion of the special education and English language learner cross subsidies by 2025. In the background explanation was St. Cloud 742 is severely impacted and limited by these 2 cross subsidies. In our district, the special education cross subsidy is nearly $15 million. This is a massive shift of funding dollars from regular instruction to special education and EL, and severely inhibits 742 from providing equitable educational instruction, supports, and extracurricular opportunities as compared to other districts that don't have that large cross subsidy. Districts with lower special ed and EL do not see the same level of impact. These funds are badly needed in a district already impacted from high rates of poverty and diversity. Holding the cross subsidy steady does not help. It simply prolongs the annual funding shortfall and ensures the effects will continue. The goal must be to eliminate the funding shortfall. And so I submitted that to MSBA, and then I received a call a couple of weeks later. And MSBA said that they had accepted my resolution and that they had already in place a resolution from MSBA to eliminate the special education cross subsidy by 2025 and fully fund it. Eliminate and fully fund the special education cross subsidy by 2025, and then that Minneapolis and St. Paul school districts had submitted resolutions to eliminate the ELL cross subsidy by 2025. And so she asked if it would be okay if she added my name to each of those resolutions to submit to the legislature, and then she asked if I would testify at the legislature this next summer. And then she just asked a question about where I said, in my opinion, this resolution would very easily pass the board. She asked if I would present the resolution to this board, and if we could get full support of the board, instead of being a resolution from me that was added on to those, it would be a resolution from the St. Cloud School Board that was added on to those. So the question that we're asking here is, as far as the resolution statement, eliminate and fully fund the state portion of the special education and English language learner cross subsidies by 2025. Do we have full support of the board, and would the board like for the board to be added to each of those resolutions? Or if the board chooses not to, then it will just remain an individual.
For motion. Yeah, I move that the board endorse the resolutions. Yes.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Scott and a second by Natalie. Do we have any further discussion or questions? Monica?
So I have a friendly amendment to the resolution. I would like to change a change in the third line from the bottom up that says these funds are badly needed in a district that is already impacted by high rates of poverty, free and reduced lunch. And I would like to strike out diversity from there. I like that it's either more specific, that it changes this by putting something like cross-subsidized EL learners or something different. But I don't think that diversity is a.
I would agree, there's probably a better word for that. I wasn't speaking necessarily of skin color, I was speaking of diversity in the sense that we have a lot of English language learners, and that if I didn't say that, if I just stuck with free and reduced lunch, it wasn't really addressing the English language learner part
Yeah,
of it,
well-
but I'm okay with that. That's just the rationale down there, it is not the resolution.
Yeah, it's exactly my point. I think that diversity, color, or whatever else it is an asset, not something that should be impacting negatively the district. So I believe that we celebrate diversity. So what you meant there is if you're talking about the crop subsidy for EL language, EL learning, or you're talking about for number of students that have interrupted formal education or anything more specific, I will think that we can work on that. I don't have any specific suggestion at this moment. Not really good at that right now.
I think that we should try to rewrite it if we're gonna rewrite it.
I think Natalie's going to jump in there. Natalie, have a suggestion?
Does it specifically have to do with home language? Like, is that how EL is? And it's not ELL anymore, right? Isn't it just EL? Okay. Just English learners. Okay. So we should change that as well. English learners are based on their home language. So that's how, am I correct in that that's how they're identified as EL students? Okay. And that's not a deficit either, but it's just the reality of education when your home language isn't English. So how do we say that without making it seem like a deficit?
Can we just say, simply prolongs the annual, let's see, impacted from high rates of poverty and high levels of, and high numbers of EL students? Go ahead, yeah.
I think that if whatever line we follow on this, it ought to suggest that there's a cost associated with poverty and anything else we list as being impacted by that. These things cost us more money. And so if poverty costs us more money, then it should be listed there.
So in a district already impacted from the costs associated with high rates of poverty and
Well,
high levels of.
No, I'm not trying to wordsmith it. What I'm trying to do is ask the question. The question is, and Amy maybe has to answer that question. We actually receive additional funds because of poverty. So just let me finish. I'm just trying to think it through. I'm making this up as I go along, so I'm willing to be edited. No problem with that. But it just seems to me that if there's an impact that's related to the cross subsidy created by EL, having to hire more teachers to deal with EL, having to have more teachers to deal with special education, then whatever follows should have the same kind of impact on us. We're spending money from the general fund for these kinds of things that already are putting us at stress, as opposed to the concept of the diversity, because I don't think diversity costs us anything. Because basically we probably receive a great deal of money because of the population we have. So if we could, I think the resolution makes sense. What we're trying to do is get the cross subsidy. And I think
Cross
it's just,
subsidy arises though because we don't receive enough money to cover the costs of those
specific things. And
additional costs.
Yeah, and I would just take that out of the rationale. We don't save enough money to, for that. That's all. As opposed to suggesting we're already in pain. That cross subsidy has created pain for the district for a long time. And I don't think we have to explain to people, use additional things to explain that. I'm trying to.
Strike that whole line.
Yeah,
I'm
just
kind of
trying
trying
to
to wordsmith because we got
Yeah,
to.
I think we need to take the whole line out of there because it is.
So just strike the whole line. These funds are badly needed in a district.
And the next one as well, I would think. Just do it, it prolongs the annual funding shortfall.
Yeah.
So we'd go from the same level of impact to it simply prolongs the annual funding shortfall and ensures the effects will continue. Yeah, no, I'll just eliminate that one sentence.
Can I throw one thing out there?
How's that?
Oh, sorry, Monica. There's staff out there that are online that wanted to throw something out there in terms of wordsmithing or suggesting something. So Lori Post, she gave two different versions of how to say something, and I believe it was about EL. She said high numbers of students receiving EL services, or she said high numbers of students qualifying for EL services.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I like the idea of striking it because it's really not about the students that need services or the students that are in poverty. It's really about, I believe that the equities are about, compared to other districts, about in general as our community as a whole, not only the need of the students that we have here, but the lack of support that we have from other referendums or other if we have a community that is largely in poverty, they're not participating the same way with the schools that in other communities that the community as a whole participate more in the schools or give more money to the schools in other ways. So I really think that is more about that than just putting the hold into the students themselves. I think that is better written if we just strike the whole line.
So I'll strike the whole line. And then I'll take in the actual resolution statement, it will be of the special education and English learner cross subsidies instead of English language learner.
Even though we're technically multilingual learner, right? But the state is English learner? Okay.
Yep. And then yes.
I just want to make sure, technically it's not multi-language learners. What do we teach? I think we teach English for people who don't know English. I don't know, are we teaching multiple languages? What are we teaching besides English?
No, it's English learner cross subsidy.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
English learner. English learner, just not English.
They
English
speak
language.
multiple languages. I understand.
Right. Whatever the state needs to hear is what I think we should put there.
Well, and ours is we are going to get incorporated into the MSBA's. They're not going to use ours. Ours is really directional to them, what we're willing. Okay, so Scott, you might want to remake your motion with the additional language that it would be with the modified.
I am open to amending my motion as you've written.
Okay.
Modified, okay.
And then was there further discussion, Natalie?
I just wanted to say thanks to Al for showing up at a meeting that you had no idea what it was. But when I was going through this, you never know what might happen on a Zoom meeting. But this really made me smile to see that it's not a mistake that you got called, because you're the one who's already testified to this, and this has been your passion. I wish you didn't have to be passionate about this. I wish we didn't have it, but thanks for your work on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Les, will you call roll?
Zach Dorval? Yes. Les Green is yes. Oops. I'm going to go back again. Zach Dorholt? Yes. Les Green is yes. Shannon Hawes?
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmove?
Yes.
Monica Segura Schwartz?
Yes.
Scott Andreasen?
Yes.
Al Dahlgren?
Thank you, Les. Okay, next up, we have Superintendent's Report presented by Willie Jett, Superintendent of District 742.
Good evening, Chair Hawes and members of the board. Tonight, my superintendent's report, it's like a three-part superintendent's report, so I don't know if it's the trilogy or I'm trying to figure that piece out. But anyways, the very first one, it's staff members receive the Leo Awards. Resource Training and Solutions hosted the annual Leaders and Educational Excellence Awards. That's LEA. This ceremony recognizes and celebrates the accomplishments of outstanding educational leaders from member school districts. And so we have a huge congratulations to the following 2021 LEA recipients. From Clearview, Dana Goman Hard. From South, John Freilich, Amy Streit, Carl Heine, Lindsay Nagorski. From Apollo, Nicole Duvier, Brad Mose, and Adam Sullivan. From North, Brenda Schneider, Amy Laumauer. From Talahi, Heidi Sell. From McKinley ALC, Carol Lund. From Lincoln, Rachel Larson. From Kennedy, Troy Hoffarth and Jean Voigt. From Riverwoods, Terry Green. And from Tech, Phil Corbett, Beth Finstad, Sherry Haas, and Derek Miller. Next, and see, this is still part of my first part. Next, Apollo's Brooke Verkenes. She ran a 20-minute, 13.6 second, breaking the former record set by Julia Carlos in 2017. So I said ran, because I had to figure out what activity she was in, because that's all that came across my desk. So I'm going to assume that that is cross country. Okay? Next, Paige Torali and Ella Morale. With St. Cloud Crush, they're headed to the state tournament for girls tennis. They will be competing in the doubles round. Also, in terms of activities, the Apollo football team showed support of Coach Beeler's father, Kenny Beeler, who is battling kidney cancer by wearing a piece of pink clothing for Apollo's Tackle Cancer Night on October 15th. The school raised over $700 before the game and another $400 at the game to help bring awareness to this horrible disease. And last, as it relates to schools, and it's not really related to schools, Superintendent Jett, and the St. Cloud Rotary recently accepted a generous $20,000 donation from CentraCare for the district's Preschool for Success program. The second part of my superintendent's report, talking about masking. In August, we promised we would revisit the question of universal masking at mid-trimester, and it is mid-trimester. After consulting with local health officials from CentraCare and the Stearns County Health Department, we are recommending and we are extending the masking requirement through the end of trimester 1. We will revisit the decision at that time. Our local health officials, along with state and national health experts, support the continuation of universal masking. They've shared that we are in the midst of a fall surge of not only COVID-19, but other respiratory illnesses as well. Like many other districts, we are struggling to fully staff our classrooms, our offices, cafeterias, and buses. And we have to employ every strategy at our disposal to keep our school community healthy and coming to school and work daily. I've been asked to look at COVID positivity rates of our district compared with other area districts and who are not necessarily masking. And so I know that some of the board members had some questions there and some community members had some questions. And so I'm just going to tell you what we saw or what we've discussed. Our rates are lower when compared to overall student enrollment. For example, the past week's data shows Sauk Rapids Rice to have 37, and you can see these things on their their data board or their dashboards. Saco Rapids Rice has 37 cases out of 4,600 students, while we had 57 out of 10,000 students. Rocori's dashboard, I'm not going to say I understand exactly what they have written down, but they have 18 positives, and it says out of 750. And I believe they have way more than 750 students, but that's what shows on their board. So again, we're committed to doing all we can to keep our school community safe and coming to school, and we appreciate the partnership of our students, families, and staff in that effort. In the last part of my superintendent's report, I want to take this opportunity to share that I'll be stepping down at the end of the school year and have decided not to seek another contract. Life comes in stages, and the time and timing of this decision feels right. As many of you know, I'm a family guy. They've always been a top priority in my life. As a family, we've been blessed to be part of this community. My children will have graduated from St. Cloud area schools, and they've had exceptional friends, coaches, and teachers along the way. I also want to take time to explore my own passions and interests. Frankly, I'm not sure what all of those may be, but if you ask me in a few years, I'll know because I will have time to figure that out. I'm also thankful to this board, to the students, families, and staff in 742, and to the greater St. Cloud community for your care and for your support. I've loved my time here. Together, we've accomplished great things for our students and for the broader community. I will continue to work hard for and with you over the course of this school year as we partner together for the well-being of our 742 community. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a couple words on behalf of the school board. We're very saddened to hear that this will be your last year with District 742, but we appreciate everything that you have done for the district and the community. You are a very strong leader, and you leave big shoes to fill, and we're thankful for 9 years of your leadership. But you're also a great leader, and you are leaving us in good hands. You have built a strong team and a foundation that leaves us in a very good position as the board begins a search for your replacement. So thank you very much. We are very fortunate that you came into our lives and into our community. Thank you. Okay, we are moving right along here. Next up, we have Board of Education Standing Committee reports. Achievement, Integration, and Equity Committee, Natalie Ringsmith, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Haas. We met, well, I think it was yesterday at 8 a.m. I can never remember because our meetings are so wonderfully early. So we had two really great discussions on two really important parts of our district. One was in regards to transitional services. They came in and gave us an update. They said a few things that I wanted to highlight here. As of right now, 275 students are experiencing homelessness in our district. Those are the ones that are identified anyway in our district. And they're saying it's about 50 students ahead of last year at this time. And most years, when we ask them the question, what do we usually get up to by the end of the year? And they said it's usually around 500. Something new they're doing this year is to tutor K through 2 students at a few of the school sites to address the achievement gap and also help some students catch up due to COVID. They have so many partners in the community. Some of their strong partners are Promise Neighborhood, Higher Works Collaborative, Place of Hope, Too Much Talent, and Salvation Army, and they're meeting needs for, yes, the students, but also their families. They do a lot of help at the beginning of the school year with clothing and supplies for students, and then throughout the year, ongoing rent and hotel costs, and also food needs as well. The number one need, and this has been the number one need that these our two staff in this area have said for years now that I have heard, is supportive housing. And so that's the continued biggest need that they see in our community with transitional folks. And the transitional services team has been invited to present to the board some of these things and some other things, possibly on November 3rd, but they're going to check their schedules and get back to us. And then we heard from Lacey Locken with the American Indian Ed Update. There is a wonderful video that she showed that I have in your email that you can see, but she just gave us some data of what's going on this school year so far. There's 221 self-identified American Indian students that are included in programming. There's 11 tribal nations in Minnesota, but here in our student population, there's 28 tribal nations that are representative. So our American Indian students are coming from all over. And Lacey and her team currently are applying for a state grant with Indian Ed goals. And she wanted to share this because the state just changed the 6 focus areas for this grant to be more culturally specific after getting feedback from American Indian leaders like herself in the community. And she said it's going to be really helpful and then also encouraging. She talked about how non-concurrence goals, which we dealt with this year and in years past, are always at the forefront of everything they're doing. And then she mentioned some new and ongoing resources that were pretty exciting. So she started a teacher group in Schoology, so teachers can join that group. And then she has put in there accessible, trusted, and authentic resources so that when teachers want to include American Indian stuff in their teaching, they don't have to go and Google search it and wonder, is this the right thing I'm actually doing? She has stuff there for them to use. K-1 students have a puppet and book box that they use. And then there's art bundles that are actually, the art is made by American Indian folks in Minnesota and Dakotas, so it's locally sourced. And then the culture trunks, like she talked about last time she was here, they're specific to 6th grade standards, but they can be used for all grades. In our next meeting, which will cover a couple topics that we didn't have time to because these were such wonderful presentations, will be November 19th. Thank you.
Scott?
There's a talk of homelessness, and yet we're not in the landlord business. We chose to get out of the landlord business a long time ago. It was a good decision at the time. We can work with the homeless as best we can, but providing housing is not a school function.
Thank you. Okay, Board Development Policy Governance Committee. Monica, do you have a report?
Yes. So my report is really quick. We talk about the retreat. We don't talk about anything else. We're talking about what will be the topics and how do we do the retreat this year, and also how do we get dates. That day we're only the board members there. The staff people were at a conference, so we basically were going over the priorities that everybody has set and have decided that we wanted to have a global presentation to the board about what are the unmet needs of our district and how do we address them.
And a date was decided, correct? Because it went out and...
So we asked the staff to give us a date that would be more convenient to them. From our committees, had some conflicts other days, so we just took those conflicts out. And we asked for board input in 2 dates that were given to the staff, and they were handling that part. So Lori will get the input from the board, and then they should.
Yeah, so we're good to go on that date, right? That I hit yes and it went over to my calendar. We're good on that one.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
December 14th.
That's what I was getting at, was we're settled on that date. Yep. And then we're having a discussion about the topics. Is that correct, coming up here?
By the
It'll be on,
agenda meeting.
okay. Okay.
April.
Thank you. Finance and Audit Committee, Al Dahlgren, I asked and now I don't remember. Did you have a report?
There is no report.
Okay, thank you. And Legislative Committee, Zach, you're all caught up on reports, is that correct? Okay, I gotta make sure I have that on my calendar. And last up here,
Well,
personnel.
not a meeting. November 3rd, we will have a draft proposal ready to
Got it.
present to the board.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to that.
Because I wasn't able to say anything earlier, I just wanted to give hats off to Al. So now MSBA and AMSD will have this language in their platform, which is super awesome.
Yep, that's very exciting. Nice timing to pull that all together. Personnel Negotiations Committee, Les Green.
We had a meeting this afternoon, talked with Superintendent Jett, and you know the outcome of that meeting. Additionally, we were having some discussion about a replacement strategy, and so what I'd like to propose is a closed session of the board to consider our options for how to proceed. And I'd like to propose that for Friday, the 29th, we should limit it to we should be able to put this together in a 1-hour meeting. And time of day, I'm not certain of. Any time for me after 11 o'clock would be fine. I think that is anyway. I think so. I haven't talked to my wife yet, but I tried to text her, but so we have to have time to notice the meeting, and it's a closed session just to talk about strategy, so.
Would you like for me to have Jan on Monday reach out to the board to figure out the time for that Friday meeting?
So can it be early in the morning?
Say it again,
Can it be early in the morning?
like 7:30?
Yeah.
I thought you said that you weren't available till after 11. Is that
Well,
what you started with?
That's because normal people would get up about 8 o'clock, you know.
I would vote for 7:30
I got
too.
plenty, I'm available at 2 o'clock in the morning technically. But,
So I was
no,
normal.
I see it. I realize that I'm retired. People do have to work, and so that maybe that 7:30 timeframe will work for me if that works better for.
Yeah, I used to be normal before I had to go to the cities to work on Fridays.
So what's the best time for you?
7:30.
7:30? That work for?
7:30 in the morning or at night.
All right. Okay.
What
Yeah,
time
I-
is your conference?
Let's let Jan handle it, eh? Can we?
Oh.
Say it again.
Can we let Jan handle it via email tomorrow, or do we want to decide right now?
What time could you make it, Zach? What? No, I mean like at 9, if we're going for early morning?
I don't think you can do that though, right?
Is Thursday give us
Monica
enough
was
time?
trying to get,
Come back, are you going to the cities, but when do you come back?
Yeah, Friday, whatever time the traffic left me. So no, if it's not at 7:30 in the morning, you can do it after 11. I'll just make it. Yeah, what I'm saying is that I can either do it before I go to the cities, or I will have to make arrangements at work for something different. So 9 o'clock in the morning, or 11 o'clock, or 3 in the afternoon is the same for me. I will have to make arrangements.
Do you work from, I think Monica works from home 2 days a week, so maybe we could do a different day. Is
Yeah, what about Thursday?
that when you work from home, Thursday?
Yes. Has
Yes.
to be noticed.
Zach, does Thursday, the 28th at 7:30 work? Monica?
That would work.
Okay, so we could go,
No, we don't.
Oh, that one was canceled.
Canceled.
Can we do it at 8,
8?
so I can get my kids
Sure.
off to school? Okay.
Okay, so are we all good on Thursday, the 28th, 8 a.m.? And Jan will handle that. Thanks, Jan.
Jan.
Noticed it. Okay, all right. And assign us a room, so, okay, thank you. That's all the reports then.
Can I just share one thing that I forgot to, Madam
Sure.
Chair, about my
Yeah.
report? I'm going to send you guys a email about Minneapolis stable homes, stable schools, and if you're on the board, a couple of years ago, I talked about this, but that's the model they're looking after. So just so we all are on the same page, that it has been done in education before, and not just here in other states. But if you have any questions, just check the email.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? Les, under the statute for a closed meeting, what is the purpose that we would be following? I just want to make sure that then we have to stick to those.
Superintendent search strategy, or
Is that listed as one of the,
Because I couldn't find that.
say it again?
I couldn't find it on the statute.
yeah,
The
is that on the
statute.
statute? I mean, we have
I
to
don't
follow,
know.
the statute specifically lists reasons for holding a closed meeting.
Monica wants to jump in here. Do you have an answer for us?
We do have a personal matter. It is a personal matter, and it's also, I don't know if it can be within negotiations, but it's part of the strategy for the search. I mean, I don't know, you want to check more?
I would appreciate consulting legal
Yeah, you're
to
gonna
clarify that,
just
because
check
when I
it.
read the statute, I can't find, I get what we're doing, but I couldn't find it in there to say, oh, it's this one.
I just want to make sure what we're doing is legal.
Right.
And we have the blessing of our attorney to do so. And then that we just have to hold the content of that meeting to that
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah. So we're going to meet, whether it's open or closed is what we're wondering, correct?
Good.
Okay, thank you. Last up is future agenda items. November work session topics will include transitional services update 2022 legislative platform and schools update. And the Board of Education may suggest items or topics for future board meeting agendas to the Board Development Policy and Governance Committee. That adjourns our meeting. It's a very impressive 7:57 PM. Well, have a good night.
Transitional services. She said that.
I think, and Lori was going to bring it up at. Lori's good.
Yep, we're ready.
Gary, that's 3 minutes early.
Is there an over-under on that?
So you're getting a new car?